Rabbi.
We are on page 735. Just to bring us up to code to where we are holding, and so that we can read further. The rabbi in chapter 48 spoke about the idea of Or Ein Sof, light of God, which is unlimited. It's not God. I think I told you, God en lo atchala. God doesn't have a beginning. Or Ein Sof, light with no end, is an emanation of God that was used to create the universe. God is, that's the first idea we discussed. We then moved on to understand that when God decided to create the universe out of sheer kindness, he needed to do two things. First, he needed to remove himself. So remove himself is not physically, but metaphorically, because God is not bounded. If I say God can be removed from an area, it means God has boundaries, God has limitations. It's not true. What God did is concealed himself so that there can be a new creation that does not sense its creator. And we discussed the idea that every time you have a creator and a created being, there is a relationship, there is a DNA. If I take a mango seed and I plant in the ground, I will not get grapefruit, because the seed will produce mango. So now when I look at the mango, I know it came from a mango seed. The same is about children or parents. The same is about an artist. There is a relationship. An artist, a talented artist, will bring alive ideas that he has in his brains. So if there is paintings of images or scenery that he never imagined, it will not happen. Even though the artist may say, I'm surprised of the outcome, or I never thought of it that way, I never saw it this way. We say that in a concealed manner, it was there, and that's why it came out in canvas. Bless you.
Thank you.
When it comes to God, if it will be a relationship between a creator and a created being, we would be unlimited. If we'll be unlimited, we never get sick, we never get old, we never have room for somebody else. We never have any need because I'm unlimited. I don't need to eat or drink, I don't need to travel, I don't need to work. So there will be no such thing as reality as we know it. The only reason there is a reality is because there is finite universe with dimensions. So there is time, I am placed in a certain time. There is place, I am occupying a certain place. There will be a place that I do not occupy, and therefore there is room for somebody else to occupy that place. That's why I can acquire goods, I can be happy, I can learn and have more memories. These are activities that apply only to a finite human being. An infinite does not possess any of that.
So it's finite space, finite human being.
Finite timing, space, and a human being. It is called in Hebrew, those of us who speak Hebrew, Ashan. Ashan is smoke. Ain is Olam, universe, meaning space. Shin is Shana, year, which means timing. Nun is Nefesh. Nefesh is a soul. All three make the reality that we are in. If my soul will not be confined to space and time, I will not be able to live in this universe. That's why I can be here and not somewhere else, because I'm finite. And I wasn't here 100 years ago. Somebody else will be here in 100 years. So there is units. So it started with time. That's when God desired. He created the space. That's number 2. And then he placed a human being. That's number 3. That's why the human being came last. Even though the real core, the real desire was for a human being, because no other creature has choice. No other creature angers God. Nobody else can become a partner with God. How come God did not put him first? If I am about a developer to develop a subdivision and I'm looking for an investor and I want to convince him to be a partner, I should take him to the site and say to him, that's what I have in mind. I can put pictures, but it's all done before the actual digging and building. Here, when God created the universe, he needed to put men last. The soul preceded all that, but the human being was last because there needed to be a finite space and a finite place, and that's where a finite body can come into play.
God's presence is infinite all over, but a finite individual can't, even though they can't perceive it.
That's it. So in other words, exactly as David mentioned, the relationship between God and a human are two opposites. Because God is infinite, a human being is finite. How do you create finite out of infinite? There has to be a total concealment. And for that we needed, the rabbi got into the third part of this chapter, which is Sovev and Memale. I think it's worth for you to learn, to discover this, because it will help you in many other areas. And I will perhaps today, if I don't lose you, I will explain you about free choice and how come we can be punished for decisions if God knows everything. That will be addressed based on Sovev and Memale, the way the Rabbi explained. But let's talk about Sovev and Memale. The Rabbi was speaking and will be speaking only about Sovev. Sovev is what we call tzimtzum, contraction. Contraction is not the literal sense of contraction, because it's impossible for God to contract himself. He's not limited by any boundary to be concealed. Contraction is not in the simple way. Contraction is for the created being that you don't see, you don't feel God. So God feels every place. Present, past, future, space, time. God is feeling everything, but it is in a concealed way. So the created being, the universe, the time, does not sense the existence of God. That's Sovev. I used the example 3 weeks ago of a machine, a projector that projects movie on the wall. You have the light, and then you have the actual individual images. The light itself is absolutely necessary, otherwise nothing will be projected on the wall. These are the two types of lights that God created to create the universe. Sovev is the light. It's a general projection of light that brightens the wall or the screen, but there is nothing there. Only the individual, the 3/4 or the 5/8 line of film will produce the moving horses and the homes and the waves, etc. But the light must be there in the background all the time. Sovev. Now, if I were to ask you the difference between Sovev and Memale, which one is greater? The answer would be Sovev, because it's so powerful it cannot enter into Memale. It will come into play about the 4 categories of the universe God created, and we'll discover that they come from a much higher source than the human beings, because by them the concealment is much greater. In other words, it may not make sense, but the greater the concealment, the greater the energy. Do you understand that? If I told you that animals or plants have much greater concealment of light, according to Kabbalah, it means that the root, the source, had to have come from a far greater source of God, from a deeper part of Sovev. The closer we get to God, the less concealment there are, and therefore it's not as great as those that are much more concealed. We'll continue on with Sovev.
So tzimtzum and Sovev, one tzimtzum is contraction and Sovev is circling.
Right.
But they're not the same thing.
Why? That's part of the tzimtzum. Tzimtzum is creating a space. The creation of the space is when God is an encircling of all around, all creation, all the galaxies, the universe, all that's created in it.
It's synonymous.
It's synonymous with tzimtzum. Sovev is synonymous with tzimtzum, not in a simple way. Yes, because as we'll discover, God is everywhere, except that for us, we don't sense that God. And for us, It seems that God is outside.
We have symptoms because otherwise we would also be eternal without any stop.
Right. That's another aspect. I'm going to use in the human being, a mother who raises a child in the womb, she provides food through the umbilical cord. That particular food, whatever she eats or drinks, will affect the child. There's no doubt. That's memale, direct impact. So the doctor can say to the mother, you're drinking too much, and it affects the blood of the baby, of the fetus. And today they know it, right? But in the outside, the mother, the water protects the baby and allow the body to grow in a safe environment. That's the idea of Sovev, encircling all around, giving the envelope of protection and creation. So according to the Kabbalah, Sovev is much more powerful than Memale, because Sovev is so powerful that cannot connect directly with the created, but actually be outside. As we'll discover, and I have to repeat over and over, it's not outside. It's inside just as Memale. But for us, we have no relationship, no direct relationship to it like Memale. Yes, I did.
Which one is for the Sovev and the Memale?
Sovev is encircling. Memale means filling in. But it's incorrect. It's just the best way to express that type of relationship from our point of view. From God's point of view, it's all the same. The better way to explain Sovev is yesh me'ayin, something from nothing, because you cannot trace back the root where it came from. Everything in our universe can be traced in the DNA. Today, with the DNA, you can figure it out where exactly it started. The universe, nobody knows, because there is no tracing back to the source. I know Kabbalah tells us why. The reason is because God is infinite, the universe is finite, so there is two separate entities, and there is no matching between the two.
That was God's doing. He made something from nothing.
Sovev is the nothing, and Memale is the something. I'm throwing here a lot of things that make no sense, but I think later on it will all settle in. You remember about 4 universes? Kabbalah tells us that the higher universe compared to this universe is Sovev. Ali, makes sense? Very good. So Ali got it. In other words, if I were to go up and connect with the world above me, I'll become nothing. That's called Sovev. In this universe, the energy of God that is in the world of Yetzirah is compared to this universe, Sovev. And the Memale is the godliness that came into this world. For the second world, the world above it is Sovev, and that's Memale. Ali, you will explain it to everybody later? Explain. Explain.
I think you were talking about this a few times, about it seems to is the light's too strong. This infinite light is too strong for us. So it has to be contracted way down. And these are the various stages of the contractions to finally get down to our universe to make where it cannot exist in a finite world.
Right. Okay, that's it. But I thought you understood the difference between Sovev and Memale.
Well, as it works its way down, each level higher is Sovev to the level below.
All right, very good. So that's exactly what I said.
A good guess.
Thank you.
Autograph.
In honor of Ali,
Thank you.
I am going to share a story.
That's really useful purpose.
It makes us understand it better.
You see, you listen, Ali, there is a reward for listening. There was a man who arrived at a big city, checked into a very fancy hotel, a 6-star hotel, for unlimited number of days. He put in his credit card, he had a platinum American Express, and he checked in. The problem is that he refused, what do you call service? Room service. The first day he says, no, don't bother me, I have to stay inside. 2 days, 3 days. He would come out only for eating and then go back for 3 weeks. And they were starting to wonder, except that he got paid. After 3 weeks, one morning, they hear a shout that they never heard before. This guy screamed so loud that the building shook. So they figured there must be something dangerous or wrong. They broke the door and they found the man fainted. So when they woke him up, a detective came in to find out what happened, what's going on.
Mhm.
So he said to the guy, the detective says, what are you doing here in the hotel for so long? Nobody comes to check on you. You only come out to eat. So he said, let me tell you, I'm a smart man. I have decided that I'm going to buy a lottery ticket and I'm going to come to Minyan for a whole week on time, as the rabbi is asking, be inside the sanctuary, not back in the back room. And God will reward me with winning the lottery. Now, if I win the lottery, it's $100 million. What am I going to do with the $100 million? I decided I have to take the time out to start planning what to do with $100 million. Make research and have a clear plan. So I decided to stay away from my wife and children and go into the hotel. That's why I checked in this hotel and I started walking out. I figured the best thing to do is real estate. And I figured already with $100 million, how many buildings I'm going to buy. He's going to buy a whole street in the downtown. Tall buildings, shopping centers, etc. And he will renovate them and make them brand new. And he started showing them sheets of accounting of how much it would cost him to renovate each apartment, how much is he going to rent, etc. He says, this morning I was about to finish. I said to myself, now I'm ready. It's time to go buy a lottery ticket. But I said to myself, 1 second, a young couple were moving to an apartment and they just got married, and the wife wants her grandma's photo hanging on the wall. She's going to go bang a nail into the wall to hang the photo, but she doesn't know how to use the hammer that well. So she's going to make a hole in the wall, brand new wall that I spent so much money. And that caused me so much pain and suffering that I screamed, I gave a shout, because the brand new apartment will have a hole now. So the detective says to him, come on, if you have $100 million and you have about 500 apartments and so many shopping centers, does it matter one wall with a hole? And the man said to the detective, you don't understand the difference. If I actually had the apartments and this lady would make a hole in the wall, it's no big deal. I have so many other apartments. But right now, it's all in my brains. So when she drew a hole in the wall, she stuck a nail in my head. Wouldn't it hurt you if someone punched a hole in your head? That's the idea of Sovev and Memale.
Sure.
There you go. Couldn't have said it better. Yes.
So the question is, did he buy a lottery ticket?
Meet me halfway, buy the ticket.
He has a hole in the wall, so. It depends if the nail is in your head or the nail is on the wall. If the nail is on the wall, it's no big deal. But if the nail is in your head, it does matter. everything we study, Sovev and Memale, is so challenging, except for someone, myself. I don't want to just pride myself too much, but I was raised with that. We studied it when I was 10, 11, over and over. At times we would repeat verbatim what it means. But over the years, I've drawn into it, and I see that in every aspect of our life, those two, the yin and the yang, so to say, exist in every part of life. And if you do not feel that it's for real, but it's in your brains, that's also okay. But realize this is a reality that the universe is hanging on. And that is, we're going to go over it one more time. There is an all-encompassing, and there is a measured part that affects every part according to the needs. The all-encompassing is equal the same. So the all-encompassing for human, animal, plants is all the same. That's why it's called all-encompassing, sovev. It doesn't matter if it's water or fire, if it's a human or an animal. Then you have another type of energy called memale. The memale would give to a human so much, to an animal less, to a plant much less. And therefore, the greater the concealment, it's a sign the greater the energy. So if I were to go and look at a human who is receiving less concealment, so to say, than a plant, because plant can't move, plant can talk, plant cannot express themselves the way they want, they have no free choice. The concealment in plants is far greater than the concealment when it comes to a human being. Therefore, the concealment by the plant is far greater. According to the Kabbalah, and we will see it later on, the farther the God's energy goes, the higher the source it came from. So that's the idea of sovev. Memale, filling in according to the needs. You see it with every part of universe. Every fruit has a shell that protects it. According to Kabbalah, the shell or the peel, we know today that peels that are edible have most of the vitamins. Is that correct, or I'm making it up? Right? So when my grandmother used to peel the apple, later on I discovered I'm wasting most of the energy. The same is about every fruit that's edible. That's the idea of Sovev and Memale. You have the all-encompassing, and you have the base, the tapestry of the food itself. And it exists in every part of life, in relationship, in relationship, family relationship, work relationship, human relationship. It's all, there are two levels. The external, but it's concealed and equal to all, and the internal, which is based on the situation. The Rabbi is talking about sovev. Everything I said until now is from the human perspective. That's called tzimtzum, not in simple way. Tzimtzum, contraction, not in the simple way. Meaning, from God's point of view, there is no difference. God is all-encompassing, just in the sovev and memale equally the same. Because God is not defined by space and time and bodies. And therefore, the way God exists inside the soda can is existing in my soul. And it exists in the phone. Otherwise, I'm creating limitations to God. From my perspective, sovev is all-encompassing, memale is inside. From God's perspective, it's inside, outside, it doesn't matter, it's all the same. Did I make myself clear? Let's read a little bit. We are on page 735 in the middle. The rabbi is going to use examples. I should share with you that today, as Harry says, why needed so long? It could have been done with two chapters can be summarized in 2 lines. Today, with DNA, with electricity, we have it all much easier. When I was grow up, there was no DNA, and electricity just began, and they would use electricity as an example, where you need much less power to a phone versus power for a 220 air conditioner. But all of it needs power. The power is so to say, Memale versus Sovev. Here, the Rabbi is going to talk about the universe from our perspective and from God's perspective. By way of illustration, the Alter Rebbe will now draw an analogy from the physical earth, which is composed of the inanimate and vegetable worlds. These two categories are the least significant of the four categories, which are man, animal, the vegetative, and the inanimate. And the divine life force found within them is contracted to a greater degree than the life force found within the animal and man. Nevertheless, Scripture attests that the whole world is full of God's glory because it encompasses these two categories and does not pervade them. So you have four categories of creation: animal, man, plants, and inanimate. If we take the lowest two, they have much less energy, but yet they will receive from God equally the same because it's all encompassing. To illustrate this point, consider this material world. Even though the whole world is full of His glory, namely, not only with minute glimmer of godliness, but with the infinite light of the blessed Ein Sof, as it is written, "Do I not fill heaven and earth, says the Lord?" In other words, Sovev fills the universe just like Memale. Nevertheless, only very limited vitality of no more than the category of what is revealed in the inanimate and vegetable worlds is closed within the world in the form of revealed influence. This is already Memale, while all the light of the blessed Ein Sof, which fills the world itself in a concealed manner, is described as encompassing it, even though it actually pervades it. In other words, we call it encompassing from our perspective, but from God's perspective, there is no such thing as encompassing. Since its influence is no more revealed in it than it is revealed within the inanimate and vegetable worlds, but affects it in a hidden and concealed manner, and any influence of a concealed nature is referred to as encircling from above. Because it's concealed, we call it encircling, but it's not encircling, it's inside. It's just called encircling because it does not have any impact on it. For Alma de Iskasia, the hidden world, is on a higher plane than Alma de Isgalia, the revealed world. This is pure Kabbalah. Godliness drawn down in a concealed manner from the hidden world is on a higher plane than that which is drawn down in a revealed manner from the revealed world. Emanating it as it does from a higher level, this mode of divine influence is said to be encircling from above. And the Rabbi says, here is another example. Let us make this more intelligible by means of an example. Further example is needed in order to clarify this paradox. How godliness simultaneously pervades the world and yet remains aloof from it, encircling and encompassing it, as it were, from above and not being revealed within it. Says the Rebbe. The Rebbe is going to use the example, and I shared with you the story of the nail. When a person forms an image in his mind of something that he has seen or sees, even though the entire body and essence of that thing, both its exterior and interior, and its very core, are completely mirrored in his mind and thought, for he has seen it, or is seen it in its entirety, this is expressed by saying that his mind encompasses that object completely, and just as in the mind's frame of reference, so too regarding the perspective of the visualized object. And that thing is enveloped by his mind and thought, but it is not encompassed in actual fact, only in the imagination of a man's thought and mind. Did you understand what we just read? Imagine you just saw a new car. You look at it and you look inside, you look outside. What happens? Did you grab the car into your head? The answer is no. Your mind's eye, your vision, So the details, the color, the artwork, whatever details there are, and you have taken over that car, but you are not having the car in your head. Now, can I forget about the car? Of course. If I think about something else, I'm not thinking about the car anymore. When I'm thinking about the car also take over my mind. And I am occupied with thinking about the car. So there is, we call it a two-way relationship. I am busy discovering the car, but while I'm busy discovering the car, I'm taking in the car, the idea of what I see, but also my mind now is captured by the car because I cannot think two thoughts at the same time. I can do two things, multifunction. I cannot think more than once, more than one item, object. So I am being occupied by the car and the car is being occupied by my head. But the actual car, where is the actual car? Sitting in the parking lot. There's nothing to do with me, says the Rebbe. But figuratively, we say that I'm occupied by thinking of the car. I'm so amazed, mesmerized by the car that I'm occupied by what I saw or what I see. So my head now is busy to take over, to understand, to grasp, to compare this car with other cars. Also, the car is in my head because that's what I'm thinking about. With God, when he's thinking about the universe, he is in the universe, as we'll discover, because God is everything. There is a famous story about a man, two people who went to heaven. One was they open up, when they went up to heaven, God says, let's check what is their mind busy with. What are they thinking about? And one was busy thinking Torah, all day studying Torah. And God says, let them go to hell. The other one was only thinking about women, girls, young girls, beautiful girls. And God says, wow, this man straight to heaven. So the angels turn to God and says, what's going on here? I heard it from a man that you'll find out in a moment. And God says, look, this man which studied Torah all day long that goes to hell, he actually was a famous rabbi. The problem is he was so busy studying Torah, he couldn't care less if people listened to him when he was teaching. Everybody was falling asleep and did not study Torah when they should have because of him. So he caused people not to study Torah. So let him go to hell. The other guy was a shadchan, a marriage broker. He was always looking to make a match between boys and girls. So his head is full of girls. He's always thinking about girls. Because every time he sees a girl, he says, oh, she's fit for that one. Oh, this girl is perfect for this boy. He made lots of matches. He goes to heaven. In other words, our mind is occupied with the topic at hand. I cannot be thinking about two things at the same time. Yes, Harry. So a human being, when I am thinking about the car, I'm thinking about a new laptop, I'm thinking about the new soda can, it's not physically by me. The connection is not a physical connection. Why? You know why? Because I'm finite and this is finite. And therefore they cannot be connected together. However, I'm busy and I cannot be occupying my head with anything else. If someone else calling me or someone is talking to me, I don't even hear them because my head is busy, although there is nothing of that to be inside of me. By God, when he's occupied, it's part of head of the object itself. And an example the Rabbi is going to use in a moment, and I'm going to use it now. If I feel my body is hot or cold, do I need to discover let's say my head is hot. I have a painful. Do I have someone to tell me about it, or it comes naturally? The answer is it comes naturally because it's part of me. So nobody has to tell me to pay attention to my head because I should be doing it myself. But if someone else is not well, someone else's head is hot, someone else's finger is under fire, that's something I should pay attention. I need to focus my attention to it. Yes, Harry.
Something where I'm missing an interpretation. If you look at the bottom of page 736, it says a further example is needed in order to clarify this paradox, how godliness simultaneously pervades the world and yet remains aloof from it. He can't possibly remain aloof. He's in everywhere. He's everything. So how can he remain aloof?
Aloof from our perspective. From the created being is aloof. That's the paradox. On one hand, God is everything. God is me, God is you, God is this, God is everything. On the other hand, we say he's aloof. He's encircling. How is it possible? Says the Rabbi, by us as finite human beings, if I'm busy thinking about an object, the object itself is not in my brains, even though it occupies my time and my energy. By God, whenever he's thinking about something, he is part of that thing. It's like when I sense my hand in pain or I feel good about my head. I don't need someone to tell me about it because it's me. I am there. Does that answer your question?
According to my wife, I'm going to heaven.
The idea is to do something good with it. Not just to pride yourself all day long. I hope that you can make matchmaking. Since we're page 737, since man's thought is limited, he cannot actually encompass the object itself. He only encompasses its image as it exists within his mind. I hope I clarified it well. God, however, of whom it is written, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, so that it is utterly impossible for us to grasp his thought process, and therefore his thoughts and his mind, which knows all created beings, encompasses each and every created thing, from its head, that is from its highest level, to its end, that is to its lowest level, and its inside and very core, all in actual reality, and not as with the thought of a mortal man. The Alter Rebbe, now, I hope I explained that. It may take time, but you'll hear it many times. When I'm thinking about you, you are not inside my head. I can tell you, you are in my mind. You are in my mind is figuratively. Because I'm thinking about you and I'm occupied. My head is occupied about thinking about you. But by God, when he's thinking about me, I'm in God's head. There is no head for God. God has no body parts. But God encompasses, when we say encompasses from my point of view, not from God's point of view, from God's point of view, he's everywhere. Memale, Sovev, equally the same. And the Alter Rebbe now gives an example of God's thought and knowledge encompassing a specific object. For example, in the case of an orb of the earth, his knowledge encompasses the entire diameter of the globe of the earth, together with all that is in it, and its deepest interior to its lowest depths, all in actual reality. For this knowledge constitutes the vitality of the whole spherical thickness of the earth and its creation ex nihilo. As I said, there was no electricity and there was no DNA then. So God said, the Rabbi says, when God thinks about the universe, the globe, he thinks about everything that inside, miles into the earth, depth of the earth. God is part of all that. It's part of what God is. The whole earth was originally created and continues to be created ex nihilo as a result of God's knowledge of it. However, it would not have come into being as it is now, as a finite and limited thing with an exceedingly minute degree of vitality sufficient for the categories of inorganic matter and vegetation, were it not for the world being created through as the many powerful contractions which have condensed the light and vitality that is clothed in the herb of the earth. I think I explained. Therefore, for earth to be created, plants, animals, humans to be created, there had to be many concealment. What is concealment? Concealment is from God's point of view. I'm sorry, not from God's point of view, from my point of view. I'm sorry. From my point of view, God is fully concealed. I don't see God, I don't sense God. From God's point of view, God is everywhere, God is everything. So there is memale, God is having a relationship with me, creating, providing, and therefore there will be different people, different animals, different plants, different inanimate, but from Sovev it's all the same. This is philosophical, but it will all lead us to the next chapter. So as to, we are reading on page 739, so as to animate it and sustain it in its finite and limited status, and in the categories of inorganic and vegetable matter alone, thus the minute degree of illumination which results from the tzimtzumim enables the earth to exist in a finite matter and only in the finitude of inorganic and vegetable matter. God's knowledge, however, as shall presently be explained, encircles the earth from above, for since his knowledge is infinite while the world is finite, it is impossible for the knowledge to pervade the earth, even though this knowledge constitutes the earth's very creation and existence. Says Rebbe, his knowledge, however, which is united with his essence and being, for he is the knowledge, the knower, and the known is impossible to be contracted. We study in chapter 5 that generally speaking, intelligent and learning, gaining knowledge is divided into three aspects. You have the intelligence, the faculty of the brain called intelligence, in which I use to grasp idea. You have the knower, the person who gained the knowledge. After I use my intelligence and I know that ice cream is good for the summer, not for the winter, I stay away. I know that in the winter you have to wear warm clothes. That's called knowledge. I took that knowledge with my intelligence and now I have it in my brains. So you have two. You have the human, we could call it the knower. You have the knowledge, the intelligent, the intelligent is the power, the faculty of learning something, and then you have the object itself that you're discovering. You discover heat, you discover cold, you discover viruses. This is something separate that's get united with the human being through knowledge. So you have all three come together, says the Rebbe, by God, it's all God. He knows himself without learning and discovering something else. Therefore, encompassing is for the human being, not for God. Here is what the Rabbi is saying. We're going to finish this chapter in a moment. It has been previously explained in chapter 2 that God's knowledge and intellect are totally different from man's. When a mortal being knows something, three distinct identities involved. Unfortunately, somebody passed away. So let me answer.
No.
Let's continue. It has been previously explained in chapter 2 that God's knowledge and intellect are totally different from man's. When a mortal being knows something, three distinct identities are involved. A, the knower, the person in possession of the knowledge, the human being that is learning something new, the knowledge, meaning the intellectual faculty which enables them to know, the IQ of the human, and C, the known, the particular item of knowledge which he knows. God, however, so if I learn medicine, if I learn science, you have the science, you have my intellect, and you have myself learning it. By God, however, is the knowledge, the knower, and the known. He that knows, and that vehicle through which he knows, and that which he knows are all himself. Thus his knowledge is wholly united, wholly identified with his essence. Says the Rebbe, and knowing himself, as it were, he knows all created beings, though not with a knowledge that is external to himself, like the knowledge of a human being. I think I explained that. Human knowledge requires getting to know something which is external to knower himself. Not so God's knowledge. It comes from his knowing himself. For all of the created beings are derived from his true reality. God's true reality and existence is the source of all created beings. By knowing himself, therefore, as mentioned just above, he knows all of creation. And says Rebbe, and these things is not within the power of human beings to comprehend clearly, and so on. And I think I'm sure you understand very well, so let me share with you a story. Reb Moshe Leib of Sasso is the one who shared the story. He said that he learned about love, true love, from two peasants, non-Jewish peasants, in a tavern. Once he was traveling and he stopped by a tavern to take a drink. Those days in Russia and Ukraine, if you don't drink in the winter, you're going to freeze to death. So they would stop in a tavern, drinks vodka at the time. Vodka is kosher, it's made out of either grain or potatoes. It's a non-issue. He says, next to my table when I was drinking, there were two non-Jews sitting together, and one says to the other, they both got, I think they were half drunk already. One says to his friend, do you love me? And the guy says, what do you mean? We were raised together. I care about you. I always cleared the snow in front of your house. If you need any help taking a cow to the doctor, I'm there for you. He says, so the first guy says, you really love me? Truly, truly love me? And the other guy says, of course. Don't you see by my action? And all my life I care about you. So he says to him, if you love me deeply, can you tell me what hurts me? And the guy says, what do you mean, what hurts you? I don't know what hurts you. So he says, if you don't know what hurts me, you don't truly love me. And Reb Moshe Leib of Sasov says, that's what something unbelievably discovered. And the way I explain it, as I heard it from a teacher, the debate was whether the love is external or internal. External love means you have to tell me what hurts. So then I know, and I'll care for you. I'll be there for you. I'll make chicken soup. I'll take you to a doctor. I'll help you. Internal love, you don't need to hear the words. You need to sense how I feel, because it should be in your core. And that's what one says to the other. He says to him, if you love me truly, you should be able to tell what hurts me. The other guy says, I can tell you what hurts you if you told me what hurts you. In other words, the other guy, and that's why he says to him, you don't really truly love me, because he was looking for internal love. Ali, did you understand this?
Emotional awareness.
Emotional awareness? Thank you. Today we have fancy words for everything. I wasn't raised with the ideas of emotional awareness or EQ, but I was raised with the idea that there are, and I preach that all the time between couples. If the husband need to be told, many times husbands, myself included, say, tell me what you need, tell me what you want. I do not read mine. I don't read your mind. But in essence, when something bothers somebody or someone has a strong desire, if we really truly in love, we should sense it. Huh?
You hit the nail on the head. We're not mind readers.
What?
We're not mind readers. That's what it's not one for the defense.
That's why David called it emotional awareness, not brain awareness, not IQ, EQ. And there is a big difference. If you have sharing your life with a friend, I'm not going to talk about spouses because it's much farther, and you see in the morning their faces, you should be able to say, what's wrong? Or why are you happy? Tell me so I can be happy too. When I moved to town, I discovered the stock market. I never knew. Today I know very well the stock market, but at the time I knew nothing. And then maybe 10 years into being here, one day, I moved in 1990. 1997, if anybody remember, there was the bubble of the Silicon Valley. Lots of startups went down. And the dot-com. It was just before the dot-com, I think. Whatever, the Silicon Valley. I would walk around downtown. Those days I used to go visit, knock on doors, and a lot of people were depressed. And I didn't understand. One day I said to somebody, today you're very unhappy, but not only you. In this building, there were two more. And that says, don't understand. It's the stock market. When the stock is down, we all are in the bad moods. If the stock is doing good, we're all going to be happy. In other words, their moods change. If we care about somebody deeply, internally, we should be able to tell what's going on. That's all. So we're not mind readers, but the emotional is something we should be able to sense. Did I make myself clear? I should add, Harry, that for men are not as perceptive as women. There is no doubt about that.
Stock market. It's funny. I made a killing in the market today. The way what is I shut my stock broke. Okay, sorry.
What did you say?
I shut my stock broke. I made a killing in the market. So,
Herman, don't show all the secrets. Let's just finish off. And this thing is not within the power of human beings to comprehend clearly and so on. The human mind cannot possibly grasp the concept of knowledge, knower, and known, all being one and the same. For whatever matter a man may desire to comprehend, he imagines how it exists within himself, bearing in mind, of course, that when the matter at hand is the knowledge of godliness, it is to be conceived on a more exalted and abstract plane than that of simple human existence, since God's matter of knowledge is totally dissimilar from man's. It is thus impossible for him to picture it at all. It must forever remain beyond his ken. So what the rabbi says, in the end of the day, it's very difficult to understand because it's God, it's not a human being. He has no brains. And he does not discover something new because he created everything. It's like I don't have to learn about my hands and my fingers and what I'm able to do because it's something that I was born. It's part of my identity. Before the above note, the Alter Rebbe stated that I'm reading on page 743. That God's knowledge is united with his essence and being, since he is infinite, his knowledge is infinite as well. It is therefore impossible for this knowledge to pervade the earth, and it must encompass it. This is true, of course, not only of God's knowledge of the earth, but of creation as a whole. This knowledge, says the Rebbe, then since it is of an infinite order, is not described as clothing itself in the orb of the earth, which is finite and limited, while God's knowledge is limitless, but as encircling and encompassing it, even though this knowledge embraces its entire thickness and interior of in actual reality. Unlike the knowledge of a human being, which encompasses only the image of an object and not its reality, God's knowledge embraces the object in actual reality, thereby giving it an existence ex nihilo. Creation, we are 744. Creation does not come about from the minute glimmer of godliness found within the object, which sustains it only at the inanimate and vegetative level, but from the supernal knowledge that encompasses and encircles it. And although this knowledge is responsible for the object's existence, it is still described as encompassing, for inasmuch as the knowledge is infinite, while the created being is finite, this knowledge is unable to close itself within the created being, as is explained elsewhere, that creation ex nihilo can take place only as a result of encompassing light. I hope I covered this topic. It's going to be difficult, continuous, but it is what it is. The Rabbi is talking about Sovev and Memale. Both God is inside and part of every aspect, because God is everywhere. However, for the created being, the finite creation, Sovev, the aspect that creates, is totally unfelt. And therefore, we call it encircling, meaning encompassing, but it's not encompassing. The other part, Memale, which fills in and gives energy according to the level, is something that is felt by created beings, each according to their level. Next week, we'll take it, bring it back to the idea of a human being, a reflection of everything God did just to create the human, the universe, how much we need to do to return back a favor to God, to please Him and be thankful and appreciative. Thank you very much.
Finish